Hello there, everyone. I'm Gaylen Morse, and welcome to Journey to Recovery. It's great having you along today. Our podcast is Developing Hope, Part 1. On today's program, we'll talk with Dr. Hal Baumchen about turning disappointment and discouragement into lasting hope. And we'll look at key ways to sustain a hopeful attitude in your recovery. Thanks for being with us today. Our podcast focuses on the co-occurring disorders of mental health and substance abuse. We present a wide range of thought-provoking, hopeful, and positive topics from a clinical yet practical perspective. And we provide a solid, truly integrated co-occurring disorder resource you can use in your treatment program or in your own recovery. Our host is Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He's the executive director of Northland Counseling Services and the clinical director of North Star Regional Co-occurring Disorder Treatment Programs. He's an author, speaker, and clinician with over 30 years of counseling experience. I'm here today with Tim Bode, Operations Director at Northland Counseling Services, and with Dr. Hal Baumchen, our host at Journey to Recovery. Hello, guys.
Good morning, Gaylen.
Hey, Gaylen. Hey, Tim.
Morning, Dr. Hal.
Today we're going to talk about hope, and when we start talking about hope, we start talking about discouragement and the disappointments of life. And before we turned the mics on, we started talking about the difficulties that our clients face. Again, as you guys know, I work in a residential treatment program for co-occurring disorders, somebody with substance abuse and mental health problems. And some of these guys have had substance abuse problems for many years and have had multiple treatment programs. And wouldn't you think that having 5 or 10 or even 15 treatments would bring about a sense of discouragement?
Yes, absolutely. I would think that it would give you the feeling of what's the point? I've been through this so many times before and nothing has helped.
Right. So on one hand, I think we have the nothing has helped. On the other hand, those past failures and mistakes and those difficulties actually create some motivation, like I have to do something. So today we're going to talk about how those past difficulties color the present moment, but we don't want to drag the past into this treatment program or into your recovery. We're going to see if we can find a way to separate past from present. Previously failed treatment programs and relapses can add to a level of discouragement. And today we're going to talk about designing a plan to develop hope. So, recently, I came across a client who said, here I am, sitting on the train tracks, hoping the train doesn't hit me. This seemingly bleak statement was actually kind of an acknowledgement, I suppose, that I'm going to have to do something. Otherwise, I am going to get hit by the train. All right, Tim, have you ever run across somebody that's feeling hopeless or discouraged, or how does that strike you?
Yeah, I was just having a conversation recently with somebody who exhibits those characteristics, feeling like there's nothing I can do, like my life is, my fate in life is determined, nothing I can do to change things or get better. And it's hard to know what to say to someone like that.
All right.
As we were talking earlier before we turned the recorder on, I had a friend back, I guess it was, I was in college at the time, and he decided to be a teacher. He got his teaching degree or certificate, whatever they call it in Minnesota. And
teaching license.
License.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, whether it was a license or not, it didn't go well for him. He just didn't have the personality, especially to deal with, now we call them middle school. Back then it was junior high.
Yeah.
And he quit after maybe 3 months at the most.
How did he feel about quitting?
Well, that's the whole, he decided at that point that he had ruined his life.
Oh, wow.
His life was virtually over as far as he was concerned.
Could he get it back together again?
Never, as long as I knew him, he never did.
Wow.
He always, he should have been operating at a level very high because he had the brains, he had the personality. But after that one failure, he decided none of that applied. and he was done. He virtually shut his personality down. He became almost like a robot. Hello, goodbye, I'll do my job. And
probably some depression creeped in.
I would think there would have to have been. Yes.
Which is low energy, low motivation, sad mood, feeling discouraged all the time, disappointed about life.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's so funny to me, I mean, not funny, but just striking that he can't get going again. And he can't find that hope that we're talking about.
You know, one of the things we've talked about several times is having a good support group or friends, things that can lift you up. He had an excellent support group, both on the a generation above him and the generation with him. And
still couldn't leverage that into hope. Huh?
A lot of people tried to motivate him, to get him, to smile, let alone other things. And we just couldn't flip the switch.
He had made up his mind.
Right.
Right, and there was no convincing him.
Right.
From that point on, that's right. We could not convince him that he had life left in him.
Yeah.
Developing hope is not a futile act of just accumulating more wishful thinking. So I wanted to make a distinction like, hey, I'm hopeful here. I'm hoping to win the lottery. No, that's really wishful thinking. Rather, hope is a commitment to realistic goals and being able, like you were saying, Gaylen, to receive from somebody else. When you get in this discouraged state, all too often we're just kicking away that good advice and suggestions from other people, that encouragement, hope from others. And we're like, oh, that doesn't count. You don't know my story. Shut up about that. And we kick away that support rather than receiving it. So when you're thinking about what can I do to remain hopeful or become more hopeful, make sure you're grabbing hold of those pieces of suggestions and advice from other people and receive it for yourself. Hope is the thought and belief that good things and better days are around the corner. That light at the end of the tunnel is not an oncoming train. It, in fact, is the sunshine breaking through those dark clouds in the end of this tunnel. What kind of things drive hopelessness? What would you guys say?
Sequential failure.
Yeah.
If you've tried something many, many times,
right,
and the result kind of winds up in the same,
right.
I won't tell you what it is, but
same old there. Place.
That's right.
Yeah. Put the same old stuff on your face. I played chess, and I learned how to play chess when I was in the 6th grade. And then when I was finishing high school out a little while, I got a job at Red All Stores Incorporated in a bakery, and we played chess there. We played on our 15-minute break, which we stretched into a half an hour. We played on our half-hour lunch break, and we played on the second 15-minute break, which we also stretched into a half an hour. And we could play 3 games a day. Games roughly ran about a half an hour. And I lost my first 500 games, and then I won 1, and then I lost 100 games, and then I won 1, then I lost 10 and won 1, then I lost 1 and won 1. So what is happening in the first 500 games?
You're learning how to play chess.
Yeah, I'm getting better. Most people can't take that much failure. They get discouraged. Like your friend that you were talking about, he probably would not have been able to endure all of those losses, all of that discouragement. Other people seem to be a little bit more resilient. Beside what else are you going to do in a bakery except play chess? So I enjoyed myself and learned how to play chess by enduring those disappointments, failures, and setbacks.
How about bread?
Yeah, we baked a little bread too.
Okay.
Yeah. Big bakery, 5,000 loaves of bread in an hour. So yeah, huge place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What kind of things do you think of, Tim, when somebody gets discouraged? What happens to them when they start feeling hopeless?
Right. I think that those external circumstances in their life are, for them, really what determine how they feel about things.
And it drives that sense of discouragement and hopelessness.
Right. So, somebody loses their job, they get laid off. Then they feel like I'll never get a job again,
Yeah. Same thing would apply to the addiction, like that guy that's in treatment again. Like, I'm never going to beat this addiction.
Right.
No, never get out of debt.
Right.
I think that's one that few people, especially if you've got all the other problems.
Right.
Debt, I'm sure, is.
Yep, you've lost your house, you've been foreclosed on, filed bankruptcy, you've still got stacked up bills, even treatment bills or physician bills or hospital bills before you came to treatment. All of those things, wouldn't that drive the belief, I'm never going to get out of debt?
I'm sure some people have I'll never meet the person of my dreams.
Yeah.
They're looking for someone special, and they just figure, with my life, that'll never happen.
Right.
Or I'll never get married and have children. Right.
Same kind of thing. Like, am I going to meet anybody? And hey, I've been messing up relationships for a long time, and I'm pretty discouraged that it'll ever work out for me.
Yeah. I think the example that you gave of your friend, they think I'll never make anything of myself, right? I'll never amount to anything.
He had decided that.
Yeah.
That he would never amount to anything no matter what he did, so why do anything?
You think some people have a discouraging voice in their head saying, you should have stayed on the farm, you'll never make anything of yourself, why couldn't you be more like your brother, or, that kind of thing?
I'm sure how much you listen to everyone. I think has that voice.
Yeah,
it's funny, the old cartoon about the white devil and the black devil or the red devil or whatever. Devil not included. It just we have contradictory
voices
thoughts.
In your contradictory thoughts,
and it's which one you choose to follow.
Right.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's really good. Gaylen, because that voice, I'm sure, is always there. You can't do this. This won't work for you. Look at all the treatments you've been in. Look at how much you drink or use and how much you've screwed up your life and how many relationships you've damaged. Boy, that voice has to be playing. But there's another voice that you can dial into that's much more hopeful.
That you can nurture and grow.
That's right. And that's what treatment is about and your support system is about.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have any more that we could talk about?
Well, I was thinking for a lot of these guys, or people, I should say, I'll never get out of this legal trouble.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them are very entangled in that system.
Right. And, like I've mentioned to you guys, I come across somebody who's had 6, 8, 10, 12 treatments and been in jail that many times or more. Some of the jail stays are very short. And there's fifth-degree possession charges or DWIs. And then there's probation violations. So now you can't drink. But when they drink, they'll maybe get drug or alcohol tested through UA and then have a dirty UA, go back to jail until that gets sorted out, maybe go to treatment again as a probation violation as well. So I'm never going to get out of this legal trouble. I got 5 more years of probation. I got to not have a drink or use for 5 years. Oh, wow. So I think they can have a sense of hopelessness.
I'm sure a lot of them feel like, especially with all the things you just said, I'll never have any close friends. How can you have close friends if you're in and out of jail, et cetera, et cetera?
Right. And I ask guys, who's your social support? Who supports you in your efforts in treatment? And some of them say, nobody. I don't have any friends.
Wow.
And not only do you not have friends, but then you have this discouragement, disappointment, and hopelessness. I'll never have friends.
Right. And I think even an overarching kind of feeling, things like I'll never be happy again.
Right. This depression will last forever.
Yeah. Right.
Understanding hopelessness, let's take a look at that. Hopelessness can be fostered in many ways, just like you guys were talking about. And it can seem to start out really small, some kind of minor discouragement, but then it gets nourished and quickly grows. Some circumstances and observations that lead to a sense of discouragement include reviewing your past mistakes, just going over all those things I did wrong, the things I shouldn't have said, but I did, and the things I didn't do, which I should have, and the things I should have done and didn't, all of those mistakes.
Right. And certainly, that happens to all of us. We all have things that we should have done and didn't do, or didn't do and should have done. So there's a difference here, right? We're able to get through those things without that that sense of hopelessness.
Brush it off, kick it to the side, try again, move through it. How about looking at things that increase my hopelessness? What about things I started but I didn't complete? Can you guys relate to any of that?
Yes.
We're all always talking about things we meant to do and didn't get done.
We could go out to my shed or out to my garage.
And
Yes.
sort out projects, yeah.
Find lots of projects.
Yes. Or come to my house.
Yeah. And that can drive a sense of discouragement and hopelessness for people. You look around your life, your garage, your office, or your car, and you think about all the things you should have done and didn't finish yet.
Yep. And then in some cases, if you have people in your life who remind you of those things, point those things out to you, things that you've not done, your failures of things that you've tried to do, that can lead to a sense of discouragement as well.
Right. If they're ridiculing you or pointing out your mistakes and finding your faults, yeah.
Right.
You mean like my father-in-law looking at my garage and laughing at me?
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah. Right. And hey, he didn't need to say anything. You were already saying it to yourself. And
Absolutely,
he just heaped on more on top of that.
All right. And we all, I think, know people who are that way. That tends to be what they do. They point out the failures or the things that you haven't done.
Gaylen, what do you think drives a sense of hopelessness for people?
Like we just kind of said, having faults pointed out repeatedly. If there's something that you're not terribly good at, if someone keeps reminding you of those, that's going to be a problem.
Another thing that I think of is surviving a trauma. And once you survive the trauma, it seems like you believe that your life is over or it's always going to be like that. It drives that sense of discouragement and hopelessness. I just want to assure our listening audience, we are going to talk about regaining hope and having hope in your life. But these things seem to just make me believe it's never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Things like failed relationships, living in poverty. I'm sure for some of the people that you deal with, being homeless.
Right. I've had a guy who said, everything you see on me is all that I have. I have nothing else. I didn't bring anything with me. And we helped him when he walked into treatment. We brought him down to a clothing place, a donation place that we have near the treatment center. And, got him some shoes and some clothing and some things that he needed. Everything in the treatment center, like food and bedding and all of that, supplied for him, towels and personal items, all of that supplied. But we got him some clothes.
Yeah.
But he came to us having been homeless.
Mm-hmm. We another thing I think of is we related to what we talked about, people in your life who point out your failures. Kind of the flip of that to me is people who have such high expectations for you that you can't possibly meet.
Right. And I think somebody with drug and alcohol problems who finished a degree, started out in a career, then lost that career, then lost a marriage, then lost a house. But everybody around him thinks, why are you having all these troubles? You were excelling, you were succeeding, now you're floundering and failing. What's the matter with you? And I think they have high expectations for that guy to quickly get over his problems, quit drinking, and quit being depressed. Mm-hmm. Stop that.
How about past relapses? I think that's got to be one of the key points.
You get 18 months of sobriety under your belt, and then you stumble and fall and beat yourself up. That you had it going on and now you couldn't sustain it. Yep, I think that does drive hopelessness.
So another thing I think we've kind of talked about is being rejected or misunderstood. Again, getting that negative feedback given to you can lead to a sense of discouragement.
Especially when you think you're doing well, you're trying hard, and then you get rejected anyway. I hate that. I hate people pointing out my mistakes. For me personally, if you tell me what I'm doing right, I do more of it. If you tell me what I'm doing wrong, reject me, make fun of me, ridicule me, I do less of it. It shuts me down.
Yeah.
I get cynical, sarcastic, rude, defiant, oppositional. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. Tell me what I'm doing right, and I do a little better. And many people are like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of people that don't work better.
Yeah, I love criticism. Yeah, I've never met that guy. Yeah.
So, Dr. Hal, what are some of the feelings that occur because of hopelessness?
Well, the first one that just jumps off the page for me is a sense of sadness, that feeling down, blue, sad, that depression that we often talk about on this program. I think that comes along with the hopelessness. And hopelessness for me is that feeling. I think we've talked about this before, Tim, but hopelessness is a feeling and helplessness is an action, or really a non-action, that comes out of the feeling of hopelessness. So,
yes, right.
Not only are you sad, but then you start having some of those behavioral things that go along with your sadness, too.
Right, including increased substance use, right? You try and fix it by using again.
To cope or to escape or to feel happier, better, And then that becomes addictive, certainly. Mm-hmm. So now it takes more substance, or you use it more often, and then that creates more shame, embarrassment, guilt, consequences, and problems. So then you feel sad again, so we have a bad cycle going on, despair, and then you have to use substances again to escape that.
Yeah, right.
Followed by the increased fear of failure.
Yeah,
right.
You know it's going to happen, or you at least you're telling yourself it's going to happen.
Right, and feelings of self-doubt that go along with that too, right?
Yeah. And what we're trying to do when you get hopeful is to have a belief in yourself, again, called self-efficacy, that I can do a few things that are really going to help here. But in the middle of this hopelessness and despair, Tim, you're not feeling that, you're feeling the opposite. You're feeling all insecure, and feelings of self-doubt are creeping in.
Right.
And I talked about that lowered energy and lowered motivation that comes along with hopelessness. And again, that comes along with depression, like you'd brought up, Tim. So now I'm dragging, I can't hardly get out of bed, and I feel like if I got out of bed, it wouldn't matter anyway. I'd never get anything done, and I don't feel much pep in my step. And then you drive that, you push that. Sometimes people start feeling suicidal, like this isn't going to work for me anyway. So they have suicide gestures, or certainly suicidal thoughts. And there's a difference for me between having a fleeting thought and somebody who entertains it. And a woman was speaking with me, and she had a suicidal thought, and I said, was that a fleeting thought for you, or did you entertain it? And she said, entertain it? I heard it knock on the door, then I invited it in, then I fed it dinner, and then I slept with it. Yeah, I entertained it. That for me is a bigger deal than somebody with a hey, you should kill it. Wow. Why would I say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's that fleeting thought you immediately kick out. That's not as much of a problem as somebody who's dwelling on this. Increased anger, irritability, and frustration come along with that sense of hopelessness and feeling useless. We talked about that, feeling useless or just not getting anything done. You can get so distracted inside your head that you don't get anything done.
And of course, all that goes to, it's like the snowball rolling down the hill. What started out as a few negative thoughts, all of a sudden, you can't think anything but negative thoughts.
Right. Including, I can't stop thinking all these negative thoughts, and positive thinking won't work for me.
Yes.
Right.
It just snowballs, like you're saying.
Yeah. And then they, of course, lead to self-sabotaging behaviors where it's not going to work because you're going to make sure it doesn't work.
Well, let's say that you were applying for a job and you had some negative thinking. Well, they're probably not hiring. Well, they certainly wouldn't take me. What if they asked me these hard questions? What if they asked me what I had been doing most recently? I might as well not even go. So that's a self-sabotage behavior that came out of that negative thinking. Not going to the interview, you just sabotaged your chances of getting that job.
So we've spent quite a bit of time here talking about
all the down stuff,
right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to switch over. What do you think? And talk about some things that we can do, that our listeners can do to inspire hope, to be hopeful.
I think back to what Gaylen was saying in the beginning, that maybe everybody goes through some negative and difficult circumstances, but the way we speak to ourselves about those is going to really matter. So we want to direct our thoughts and our efforts here about changing self-talk. the way you see your situation and the way you talk to yourself about that situation. In my world, in my view, we're always moving in the direction that we're thinking about and speaking about. So if you think and speak in a fairly positive way, you're probably moving in that direction. If you think and speak in a negative direction, you're probably moving in that direction. If you speak in a negative way, you're moving in that direction. So I hate my life. I'll never get out of this. I can't believe that I have to go back to treatment. This never works for me anyway. You speak like that, you're moving in that direction. So we want to change up the self-talk.
Yeah, and so that actually makes me think about the fact that I would guess most people don't want to move in that negative direction, right? They don't want their lives to get worse. They want their lives to get better. So if they can come to the realization that what you said is true, that how I think determines the direction I'm going, it seems like that would be an important step in them making some progress in the right direction.
And if you want, again, I'm just repeating what you said, but if you want to change the direction you're moving, you have to change the way you're thinking.
So what are some positive things, some self-talk that people can use to inspire hope?
Well, I think a big one is I'm getting better. I'm not there, but I'm on the journey.
I'm moving in that direction. Instead of what would the opposite be? I'm getting worse. This doesn't work for me.
Some of the things I think of, I have good people around me to help me.
Right.
I've made a little bit of progress. I think we'll maybe talk about this in our next segment, that change statement that you've talked about before. And
I'm making a little bit of progress over time. And
right.
It's helping a little bit in some areas. Yeah,
right.
We're going to bring that up again. You talk like that, it's going to help you.
Right. How about I'm valuable, talented, and worthwhile?
Right. The opposite of I'm a loser and I'm no good and I don't amount to anything and I'll never amount to anything. Don't speak like that. Kick that to the side and replace that with I am valuable or talented or gifted or I have good qualities.
How about I can make a positive contribution to other people's lives?
Most people want to. They want to help somebody. You got kids to raise and a partner you want to be with and you want to help somebody on the street. And so you can make a positive contribution to other people. And when you do, you're going to feel better about yourself.
How about I have some good ideas?
Yes, you do. Yeah, you're filled with good ideas. Tim and I laugh when one of us comes up with a good idea, and you would think when I say this that it's rare that we come up with good ideas because we offer each other 15 minutes off for having a good idea. So.
Yeah, that's our reward.
And I have a hopeful attitude. I'm going to have some good ideas. I can make some progress. So it's not wishful thinking for me. It's a hopeful attitude.
Right.
How about I'm getting stronger?
Right. And physically, I'm probably wearing down, but mentally, emotionally, psychologically, I'm getting healthier and I'm getting stronger. Meaning, I'm going to be able to identify the temptations, cues, and triggers. I'm going to be able to stand strong against those things.
How about I'm looking forward to better days ahead?
Same kind of thing. I'm making progress, and I don't have to fear the future. I can embrace it and face it.
Mm-hmm. My life has meaning, and what I do matters.
Purpose is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes.
To not just think you're living life as a piece of trash here that's going to be thrown away, but you can make a difference with your life, and your life does have purpose and meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe things are beginning to go my way.
Right. Nice. Yeah. Just I've got a good start here. I am doing a few simple things. Yep.
Right. I have good opportunities in front of me.
Right. Instead of the world doesn't ever give me a good opportunity, it's always against me. But I think there are some good things that you can look at and engage in.
Here's one that I really relate to because I remember a point in my life when I said this to myself. A few of the things that I'm trying seem to be making a difference.
Yeah. That builds momentum, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it sure
I've
does.
done a few simple things that helped. I've got a couple things going. A few people like me. A few things that I've touched or tried have actually worked out at least somewhat. I think that's very inspiring, very hopeful.
How about I'm growing in wisdom?
I like that one.
When I think of I'm growing in wisdom, I think about the experiences you're having in your life are teaching you things, right? You're learning how to cope with them better. You're
what to try, what not to try.
Yes, exactly.
And what to avoid.
Yes.
And you can watch your brother, at least I could, to see what things to avoid as well.
Yeah.
And that's wisdom.
Right.
I don't have to make all the mistakes myself. I've got help.
How about I'm learning how to deal with failures and setbacks?
Big one.
That's really
no matter
important.
how well you're doing, there's probably going to be a setback or two.
And can you blow those off, kick those to the side, and pick yourself up again and try again, instead of, like your friend that we were talking about earlier in this podcast, he just could not kick off that failure, push that to the side and try again. It set him back, and he couldn't recoup. He couldn't start again. So that's what we want to do, be able to deal with failures and setbacks. Not tell yourself, I can never have another one. I wouldn't be able to survive it. No, I could have a failure or a setback and I'd survive it. I'd get through it. I don't prefer them, but they don't kill me.
I think this is a good place to wrap up today's podcast, and we'll continue our discussion of developing hope in the next one.
Great.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to today's podcast. Today, we were talking about developing hope. We certainly hope you found it helpful. Also, we invite you to check out resources on the web at journeytorecovery.com, where you can download other materials, develop skills to identify emotional problems, reduce symptoms, and prevent relapse at journeytorecovery.com. We've been visiting with author, speaker, and clinical psychologist, Dr. Hal Baumchen. I'm Gaylen Morse. Thanks for listening to today's program. See you next time on Journey to Recovery. And remember, recovery is a journey. Enjoy the ride.